Hello guys, I'm going to do a short video on how to basically navigate and use TradingView. Now TradingView is the only software that I use to do my analysis. So although I use the MetaTrader 4 app to actually execute my positions from my phone, my actual bigger term and sort of bigger picture analysis is always taken on TradingView. I would always advise you guys to use TradingView as opposed to using the MetaTrader 4 desktop. I actually find it's a lot more user friendly. It's just genuinely a lot more easier to use. So therefore, what you can basically do is on a daily, hourly, weekly, or however often you tend to sort of break down your charts and look at what's going on, you can simply jump on TradingView or on your laptop, your computer, do your analysis, figure out where you think price is going to go. And then, obviously when price gets there, you can do things like set alerts. So you can get some, emails and text messages. And then obviously you can actually execute the position on your phone using the MT4 app. That's kind of what I do. I find MT4 is great in terms of execution straight off the phone. So I use them both together. And I do all of my analysis on TradingView. Now, TradingView in itself is great. And obviously I appreciate there's a lot of members at the moment on BS Apps FX course that fully understand how to use TradingView. If so, I know you guys probably know a lot about this platform. And if there's anything I miss, feel free to give me a shout so I can potentially do a secondary video. Now, TradingView is great because you can actually create an account where you can do your analysis and publish it amongst other TradingView users, and they can comment, like, or share their opinions, and you can also obviously see other people's analysis too to try and give yourself a little bit of an insight or maybe a bit more clarity on a pair that you can't quite figure out. So it can also be a little bit of a dangerous place because you could be almost getting involved in some of the chats that take place on TradingView, where people are saying their view and their biases on a particular pair, and you can kind of get caught up in other people's opinions and views as opposed to just sticking with what you believe is going to happen. And I mean, in terms of sort of listening to other people and seeing other people's charts, I just find that can be a little bit dangerous for maybe a new trader or somebody who's a little bit more less experienced or somebody who's easily influenced by other people's opinions or whatever. So that's kind of how I feel about TradingView. It's great for analysis. It's great for publishing your own ideas to build up a portfolio for your own use, to go back on and see how things went. And yeah, I mean, it's just a really fantastic platform to do analysis on. So if you go onto the homepage, this is what you'll see. Now, there's different plans with TradingView. You can get Pro, Basic, so you can get like a free plan where you can't use as many tools and there's certain restrictions. And then you can get a Pro, and I think you can get even higher than this, where you can use it like its full functions. Now, in my opinion, I don't really feel like you need really that much more really than sort of Pro, which is pretty cheap. I think it's like a monthly subscription. Let's actually have a look and see. So let's just let this load. Okay, so that's just my ideas that I've published, which I've not actually done for a long time. Let's just look at accounts, because I think this is where we can see how you can upgrade your account. Okay, so yeah, so I'm on a monthly pro plan, so that's only sort of $15 per month. It's not very expensive. So if we just look at the plan options. Okay, so you've got basic, where you just get the sort of the standard tools. So that you get charts per tab, devices at the same time, which means obviously you could only use, whether you're using it on your phone as an app, because you can also get this as an app, or whether you're using it on your desktop, you can only use one at a time. So you can't save as many charts on the basic, but you can on the pro. So as you can see, there's features that I would suggest that you look into, which you can see which is best for you. Premium is $60 per month. I think is very excessive considering this is just analysis. But it comes down to how much you really need from this. Okay, so that's kind of like the prices and whatnot. Now, when you come to the homepage, what you'll get is some ideas on the homepage from other users. You'll get some sort of general rates here. These are a lot of the indices. And then you get like stocks, what's going on with the stocks, sort of top authors of who's sort of publishing the most stuff right now on a weekly, monthly, or all-time basis. Economic calendar, which I don't tend to use very often. I tend to use my FX book for an economic calendar. And yeah, just a mixture of sort of news reports, releases, things like that, which can be quite interesting. Okay, so if we now type in any kind of pair, so generally speaking, what you would do is you just type it in as the symbol. Now, if you don't understand symbols, obviously there's resources online to help you understand, how the pair comes first, the base rate, and then the secondary rate, and how the actual, pairs work. Now, this is euro to the Swiss franc. Now, the only reason I'm looking at euro to the Swiss franc is generally this is not a pair that I tend to trade very often. So therefore, I assume the chart's probably going to be nice and clean and clear with nothing on it. So I can then show you how the tools and everything works. So if we go to this, now you'll see here, you'll have multiple feeds. Okay, so these are all the same pair, and this is all the same chart. But what you'll get is the feed is provided by a different broker. So for example, this is provided by FXCM. Then you've got Aranda, Forex.com, ICE, Saxo Bank. Now, what you'll find is because all the opening times and the feeds that they provide in terms of their rates and stuff, you'll find that at times the candles can look a little bit differently. So if somebody is on, say for example, FXCM and then another person's on, I don't know, say Forex.com, you'll find that sometimes the candles can look a little bit different. Now, this creates a few problems in terms of actually analysing the markets because, for example, Forex.com, in my opinion, isn't that great in terms of charts because it sometimes shows spikes and things that don't appear on other charts. So therefore, going forwards, I would suggest, it's up to you to backtest this and try this out, but I would suggest always using your charts on FXCM. Now, FXCM sometimes doesn't actually provide all the symbols that you're looking for. For example, gold. Now, if we type in gold, there isn't any, I don't believe there's a FXCM. So therefore, for gold, I use CFD -TVC. This is the actual feed that I use when I'm doing my analysis on gold. And it's the same with silver. So you've got like things like Aranda, and you could probably look at it on maybe a few other different feeds. But again, I only use CFD -TVC for silver, and I believe it's the same for oil as well. For oil, I use CFD TVC. Let me just double check that for a second. Yeah, CFD's on crude oil. Yeah, so on this is why I also use CFD TVC as well for oil. I just pretty much type in WT oil. And I just go to the top one. So again, like I said, this is where you type in your symbols. Now, when you type in your symbol, what you'll get is you can follow this symbol, so you can get alerts on this symbol in terms of news releases, etc. Emails and things like that. Now, what you'll get when this comes up is you get the rate. So again, you can see that the rate is always different with different feeds because of their commissions and the rates that they get and their liquidity providers, etc. Now, then what you'll get is you'll get let me just go back for a second. Let me just go back to overview. Just wait for it to load. Now, what you'll get initially on this is, like I said, you'll get the different rates, previous open, close, things like that, things that aren't really that important. And then you'll get something like this, where it's like almost like a little bit of an indicator in itself, really, of sell and buy. Now, I don't actually pay attention to this at all. This whole sell, strong sell, buy stuff. It's a lot of it's based on things like a number of different things, really. I mean, if you probably looked into it, you'll find it's very mixed data. Now, again, you'll get ideas on this particular symbol. Okay, so you'll get ideas and news releases and whatnot on the symbol that you choose to type in. Obviously, if you go on the homepage, you'll get a mixture. If you go up to the ticker, then you'll get an ideas just for this particular one, that for whatever one you type in. Now, what you can do is you can actually type in trading ideas using Swiss franc, okay? And you can find just specific ideas on this. But obviously, that's not what we're going to do. But this is how you can use this. But we're just going to use ticker to actually get the chart up. Now, what you do then is you go to full featured chart. And this should hopefully bring up a blank chart. Hopefully I've not put anything on this. If not, I'll just clear it. Now, to clear the chart, if there was loads of lines on there and you didn't want those lines on there, let me just remove this for a second, is what you would do is you would just go to remove all drawing tools. Okay, so you just remove everything. Now let's just remove all indicators as well. So we're just going to get a nice, clean, blank chart. Now what you'll get is, probably you won't get this chart when you first get TradingView or when you're a first user. You might get it where it's got a black background or it doesn't look how mine looks. Now once you've loaded up the chart, what you want to do now is you want to go to settings. So right click, go to settings, or come up to here. And these are my chart settings. Okay, so these are the boxes that I have got ticked. I don't show economic events. Now, economic events is, if you click this, you'll get it where all the events come up, all the news releases for the economic calendar, which is, I think it's helpful, but I can see all that kind of stuff separately on an economic calendar. So I don't tend to actually have this on my chart. So let's untick this. Let's go to trading. Yeah, so things like show executions, you don't really need this on here. That's if your broker's connected to TradingView, which most of the time it's not. I don't think any of this stuff really matters at all, really. Appearance. So background, I have mine white. I don't have session breaks in, but session breaks are to show, like for example, this is a 4-hour session break. So it shows when different sessions finish. So we can go into a little bit more depth into that shortly. So I don't have that because it looks very messy. I don't have, for example, the watermark of the pair, but again, this is quite nice to have if maybe you've got members or something like that where you want to show people, you know, what pair this is. So I don't use anything like that. But yeah, these are the settings that I have for the actual appearance. I don't have really any of this ticked, and I always have a white background because I always like to try and keep it as clean as possible. Scales, these are the settings that I have for that. Nothing's really ticked, but maybe take note of this. Status line. Okay, so I don't actually really know what the status line is. Ah, here we go. Okay, so it's this. So this is obviously the description of the ticker. And this is obviously the ticker, so that's quite simple. It doesn't really matter what you want to have. Bar change value. This just shows today's movement based on when you move this. Indicator titles. Yeah, I don't think that's really that relevant. Right, okay, and symbol. Okay, so my candles I simply have bullish is green, bearish is red. I have black borders around them because if you remove them, they look like this. So I like to keep it like this. I have the wick as black because if you remove the wick, obviously the wicks are one of the leading and most important parts of any candlestick formations. So it's very important to have the wick, so I have the wick involved. But yeah, these are my settings for symbols. And time zone, it's very important that you change the time zone to whatever time zone you're in. So if you're Eastern Standard Time, London, Pacific or whatever, so you've got all these here based on what you're in, so that it displays it the way it should be displayed. Okay, cool. So that's that. So that's the settings. Now the next thing I want to go through after we've now just made our charts so they're nice and clean. We've got our candlesticks the right color. We've got the chart set up with the white background. Is I want to go into creating watch lists. Now what you have here is you have a watch list. Okay. Now with a watch list, how they work is you can populate each list with the symbols that you're interested in watching. So for example, maybe you've got a list just for USD pairs, so the dollar pairs, and then maybe you've got a list for the Japanese yen pairs, a list for maybe sort of like the exotics, so pairs that aren't the majors, which you should have learnt about maybe in the basics of Forex. And then I don't know, maybe you could have a week ahead watch list or something like that. So what I have here is I have an exotics watch list. Okay, so these are my exotics. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to untick these for a minute. Just get it nice and clean. Okay, so these are all my exotics. So these are all the pairs that don't generally fit into the majors. Okay, so I have things like silver, gold, oil, the DXY, which is obviously the basket which measures all the currencies together, the S&P 500, things like oil and whatnot. So these aren't really pairs that generally fall into, for example, the USD pairs and the majors. Okay, now what you do to add, so what you can do is you can do this. You can go down to create new list, and say, for example, this list is going to be called USD pairs. Okay, so let's save that. Now, what you do now is this list is now empty. Okay, it's completely empty, there's nothing in it. So therefore, now what you would do is you type in USD CAD. And remember what I said, we're always picking the FXCM feed, and you go like this, and that's it, bang, it's added. So USD CAD is now added to this. So then we can go USD JPY, FXCM, bang, USD JPY is now added. We can go to USD Swiss franc, FXCM, and now we're starting to build a list. Okay, so that for example could be our dollar pairs. Then what we can do is we can go to create another list, and this could be our euro pairs. Euro pairs. And again, we can go Euro USD. We can go to Euro AUD, Euro NZD, Euro JPY, or potentially we could put Euro JPY in the Japanese yen pairs. So then we could do something where we create a new list for JPY pairs. And what we can do is we can just add in all the JPY pairs. So this could be a JPY pair. We could have Euro JPY, USD JPY, and we could just keep going and adding all these. Or you can have a different list. You can have a green list, white list, red list. So therefore you could do something like I've got a red list here, look. So my red list is all the ones I tick. So then what you can do is you can go to your USD pairs and you can mark these different colors. Okay, so if I make this blue, I make this blue, I make this one blue like this, then what I can basically do is I have a blue list and a red list. So if I go to my blue list, they're now there, and then this is my red list. Okay, and then what I can do is I can go to my JPY pairs, and I can make this color yellow. And then I've got my yellow, orange pairs, sorry, which is like my yen pair. So there's loads of stuff that you can do with this. Rename list, save list, export lists, clear, delete, whatever. So that's kind of how you create watch lists. Now, what I tend to do is, I tend to have around sort of 15, 16 pairs. So let's just see if we can delete these a minute. So let's delete, hang on a minute. Because I've actually got JPY pairs that I do quite like to trade. Let's just remove all these. I think it's these ones. Right, so let's remove this list, all the ones that I've just created for you guys, because we don't want all this. Yeah, cool. So I've got exotics, where I've got all my random pairs, my JPY pairs, my USD pairs, and then what I have then also got is I've got a watch list. Now, in my watch list is the pairs that I'm interested in for the week ahead. So what you could technically do is you could make, say, purple all the pairs that you're interested in for this particular week. Okay, so say you're interested in GJ this week, and you're interested in GA, and you're interested in EA, and you quite like the look of silver. Okay, so then what you can do is your purple list could be your week ahead list. Okay, so this could be the ones that you're focusing on this week. So although you might have all these that you look at, your exotics, your JPY, you might only find that it's just this small number of pairs for this coming week that you are interested in trading. You're not interested in looking really at any others. You know that from looking at these and using your technical analysis and your fundamental knowledge, that these particular pairs for this week show the most opportunities. Now, it's something that everybody gets tricked out with. They feel like they need to be watching 101 different pairs, especially when they're part of things like telegrams or, they're on social media, and they can see that maybe there's loads of opportunity within one particular pair, and there's maybe this one particular pair is not a pair that they generally trade, they overlook it, so then suddenly they start looking at that pair, end up losing on that pair maybe for whatever reason and forget about all the other pairs that they said that they were going to focus on for that particular week. So the best thing that I would suggest to you guys is to maybe have like sort of 16 pairs on your watch list, narrow it down to 16 pairs, don't trade anything else, And then out of those 16 pairs, maybe on like a Sunday or over the weekend when you're doing your analysis, is to kind of narrow that down to maybe sort of like 8 pairs, something like that. Maybe 6 to 8 pairs. And then even further narrow it down to maybe 3 or 4 pairs for actual setups for the week ahead. And then just ignore everything else. I find a lot of trading is all about filtering. You know, you have to filter out the good from the great. And if you can find a potential setup which is going to provide you, you know, 5% return, as opposed to a setup that's going to only provide you a 2% return, I would try and narrow it down to the best possible setups for the week ahead, and try and put less focus on the ones that are only going to kind of maybe provide less sort of reward really in comparison and relative to risk. So that's kind of how you formulate a watch list. So we've kind of covered like how to you know, do your properties on your chart and how to almost get your chart set up. Now, the next thing I want to go over with you guys after now doing watch lists is I want to show you how to set alerts. Now, set alerts are very important because if you're in a 9 to 5 job, or maybe time is a little bit restrained and you don't kind of have the time every day to be able to sit on the charts, what you can do is once you've completed the course and you understand technical analysis and you understand, you know, how to identify areas of interest, you know, where you're looking to potentially buy or sell. Once you've predetermined that and you've found and built that skill, what you can do is, instead of sitting in front of the charts all day long, what we can do is this. So say, for example, price is currently at 1.1118. Okay, we kind of ignore this last pip here, but we're at 1.1118, 1.1120, something like that. Now, say, for example, okay, our area of interest for this particular pair is here. Okay, say something like that. Now, what we can do is, say for example, once price starts getting into this area, because we're bored right now, we're not really interested right now because this is the next kind of level of previous support, which is now resistance because it's broken through. So therefore, maybe this is going to come up, hit this level, and then sell off. So therefore, what we can do, let's just remove this actually and make this really simple. We can put a horizontal line in here. Okay. Now, what we can do is we can double click this, and we can put an alert on this so that if price begins to cross through this, okay, this horizontal line, we can set an alert to tell us via email that euro to the Swiss franc is crossing through this line. Okay, so therefore what we can actually do to save ourselves from being in front of the computer, we can actually drop this line just a little bit lower so we get alerted beforehand. And we can stick this alert in here, so when it begins to approach this level, it will give us an alert. Okay, so we can notify an app on our phones. Okay, so you can trigger this up, and it will show us a pop-up if we're actually on the desktop version, and it will send us an email, and I think you can actually get it to maybe send you a text as well. Okay, so this is something that you can do, and this is the kind of message that's going to come up. So you can maybe write something like euro to the Swiss franc, crossing, or you could write approaching an area of interest for a potential sell. Okay, and this could be your alert for this particular one. Create. So now an alert has been created for this. Alternatively, what you can do is you can click this plus here, look, and you can add an alert here exactly on price. So you can just go down to price. Maybe like this is your area here, click add alert. And this will also trigger an alert as well. Now, how you can access your alerts is you just go here and you can see now we've got these alerts, okay? And then you can go in and edit these alerts to tell you what you need it to do. Okay, US Swiss francs crossing. So this is this alert here, and then we've got this secondary alert, this one here, which we can open, which is obviously what we've set, where we've wrote US Swiss francs approaching area of interest for potential sell. So what you could do is you could actually set 2 alerts. You could set an alert when it's approaching it and an alert when it's actually crossing it. Okay, so these alerts can be super powerful. They can work really well, you know, if you don't want to sit in front of the computer all the time. Because then what happens is, the moment you do get an alert, you can then jump on board, figure out what you're going to do next, and maybe you've already pre-planned what your plan is going to be for when it gets to that level where you're going to sell it, or what kind of thing that you're looking for, which is obviously what a lot of the stuff is covered. Now, that's how to set an alert. Now, the next thing I want to show you with charts is how to compare symbols. Now, it's covered in the course in terms of correlations. It's very important to understand correlations because what you'll find is this particular pair here, euro to the Swiss franc, will probably be either positively or negatively correlate to another pair. Now, it's very important. So if I show you USD Swiss franc, one set around there, let's just remove this. What we can do is we can add a symbol which I know is negatively correlated, okay, like this. Now this shows you quite clearly actually that when USD Swiss franc goes down, Euro USD goes up. Now this is an almost a very high correlation. Now you need to understand correlations, which is covered a little bit further on within the advanced course, is because they can work in your favour. For example, USD Swiss franc, if you can't chart this pair, you can't figure out what's going on with this pair, you can look at Euro USD, which is a direct negative correlation, chart this pair instead to try and get some clarity on what's going on with the USD Swiss franc. So how you do this is you go up to the plus, and you can compare symbols relative to each other to find out, which one's stronger, how things are performing. So this is how you would compare symbols. Okay, so this is quite interesting. Let's just carry on looking at this chart. Now that's how you compare symbols. Now, with regards to indicators, I don't use any indicators on my charts except for moving averages. You'll understand why as you start working through the course. But there is a lot of people that tend to ask me, how do you add the indicators that you use? Now, the only indicator I use is you go up to here, see this wavy line here with the plus in it? It says indicators and strategies. Now, what you can do is there's loads of built-in ones and public libraries of things that people have built. You can see by how many likes it's got on how good it may be. I don't know what this is. Let's have a quick look. Okay, so this is some sort of volume indicator. So I don't actually advise you use any indicators. I find that they just clog up the chart. They give you false readings. And from years of backtesting, the only one that I would suggest is actually using an EMA, which is a moving average. There is a video that I'm going to do on moving averages, so therefore what I would type in is EMA. Now you click on moving average exponential, click this, go back to the chart, and what you're going to have is this line. Okay, now you want to double click this line and make sure that it says 50. It's up to you what colour you want to pick, red, orange, black. I quite like mine like a pinky colour. And make sure it says 50 close. So that's how you add the 50 moving average, okay? Now the 50 moving average works in a number of ways: break and retest, dynamic support and resistance, figuring out sort of entry points based on ratios or fibs and things like that. So it works really well. So this is the only indicator that I would suggest that you have on your chart. Now another thing you can do with your charts, if you've got the pro plan, is you can do bar replay, okay? So if you click this here, this little back arrow, what you can do is you can go back in time to see what your predictions were. Okay, so maybe you thought that this was a fib, like this. So therefore, maybe because we quite like selling off the 61.8, which is this area here, you thought that this was a really good selling point. Okay. Area of interest for sell. You've got a previous market structure and the 61.8 fib. Okay, so this is where you'd be looking for an entry once price gets up to the 61.8, which it's at. Then what you can do is you can click play to see how it played out. Speed it up a little bit. Now you can see this was a really great sell. I could have already seen that, simply because what we've got here, also, I'm getting a bit carried away now, but we've also got a rising wedge, which is price is being squeezed into this rising wedge. And there we go. So that's just an example of using the bar replay on how you can use it to almost back test, which again is covered within the course, journaling and back testing. So that's how you use the bar replay. You can use it on all different time frames, hourly, 4 hour, daily. And what you'll do is whatever time frame you're on, when you play it, it will play each candlestick. So whichever time frame you're on, whether that's a daily, it will play each candlestick as a daily. And then what you can do is you can just go up to here and just keep going back like this, or maybe you want to do it again and actually go back to here. And this is how you can test strategies, things like that, and sort of see how price played out. So that's bar replay, so that's quite a cool feature. So we've covered bar replay. This is just the undo button. Create an alert, which we've done. Indicators and strategies. Compare and add symbols. For example, the Euro USD and the USD Swiss franc. This is candles. So we use candlestick charts because we like to read price action based on the candles. But throughout the course, you'll notice that sometimes I use the line chart. I use the line chart sometimes for plotting weekly levels. You'll discover that. So this will produce just the line chart, which will only show you the open and the close as opposed to the wick. But it's best to stick to candles because it's a lot easier to understand. And you can get things like bars, hollow candles, areas, which is really weird, baselines. So yeah, there's quite a lot of stuff that you can use on this. Which just look, I mean, this looks really confusing. So I would just suggest to stick to candles and line charts. Okay, so now we've gone through that. What I want to go to now is time frames. So these are all your different time frames, okay? All your different ones, or you can type in your own. Now the only time frames I use personally is the 15-minute, the hourly, the 2-hour, the 4-hour, the daily, weekly, and monthly. That's it. So this is why you can see these up here. Okay, 15-minute, 1 hour, 2 for D for daily, W for weekly, M for monthly. Now, obviously, if I was to remove this, it disappears. Okay, it disappears from my list of time frames. But I actually really like using the 15 minutes. I'm going to stick that back in. Okay, so this is how you can select which time frames you use, and obviously these are the ones that I would suggest because you want to filter out your favorites. Now, another cool feature of this is you can split screen. So you can go to all different options here where you can split the screen. Now what you can do here is, say for example you want to look at USD Swiss franc on the daily, you can then come over to this one and look at it, say on the hourly. Okay, so this is what it looks like on the hourly chart, but this is what it looks like on the daily. Okay, so you can use both charts together in harmony to try and figure out how things look like, as opposed to keep having to flick through. You can see it on two different screens. Now this works especially well on bigger screens. And you know, you could have, if you've got like a higher plan than the Pro plan, I believe you can have even more than 2 charts. You can have up to 4 on one browser window. So this is quite cool as well. Now another thing I want to show you is saving images. So say for example this you want to post in a Telegram, or you want to post it on your Facebook or whatever. All you can do is take a snapshot like this, click save image. It will bring up the image that we just saw, right click, and then you can click save image, and then you can just save it as, say, USD Swiss franc daily. Like that, and then it will just download it straight to your computer, your downloads folder, whatever it may be. Okay, so that's how you save images. You can tweet them, or you can basically, what you can do is when you click save image, you can go like this, copy image, and then you can paste it into a Telegram window or Telegram desktop straight off your computer so that maybe your members and things can see it also. Okay, so that's kind of how you save images, split the screen, you know, select different time frames and filter out your favorites. Comparing symbols, we've covered indicators, how to set alerts, building watch lists, properties for the actual chart, bar replay, and obviously we've gone through line and candle charts. Now I want to go through the different tools that you've got access to on the actual TradingView. Now you've got obviously your arrow, however you want this to be. It could be a dot, a cross, or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Now these are your most important. Now as you can see, I've starred the ones that I use. So I tend to use trend lines, horizontal rays, and arrows. That is really the only thing that I use. I can't see you really needing to use anything else. So the arrow I just use for trying to say where price may go. And I try and keep the lines as thin and as clean as possible. You don't want lines like this, for example, where they're really thick and ugly like that. It's just not necessary. So I try and keep things as clean as possible. And this is where you can obviously, you know, do it as a dotted line, or, you know, how you want the arrow to actually be and which way round you want it to be. So left or right. You know, do you want it to be dotted, or do you want it to be a thick line? Color, you can change color to maybe blue. So this is where you can use things like arrows, Trend lines are here, so this is where if you want to maybe connect up these points here like this. Again, I don't like to keep them really thick like this. I like to keep them nice and clean and thin like this to keep the chart nice and clean. And then you've got things like horizontal rays. Now I prefer to use horizontal rays simply because they don't drag all the way across the page. So, but then you've got also the option of actually having a full horizontal line. So this goes all the way along. It just keeps going forever and ever. So I quite like using horizontal rays. Okay, and then you've got so yeah, you've got arrows, horizontal rays, horizontal lines, and trend lines. So they're the only ones I use from that section. Now, within the next section down, there's so many different things in here, but the only thing that I use is fib retracement. Okay, to go from swing point high to low, to then find the retracement. Okay, now in terms of my fib, these are my settings that I have. So take a screenshot of this. These are the only ones I have ticked. 0, the 0.382, 0.5, 0.618, 1, the minus 0.27, and the minus 618. Now you might not understand fibs yet on how they work, but obviously you'll find that stuff out within the course. But this is the only settings that I have. Yeah, this is the only settings I have. I have them as dotted lines. These are the colours I have. It's up to you what colour you favour, but these are the colours I have. So this is the only tool that I use within this. Okay, I don't use any of these other tools. I don't really feel like they're necessary at all. Now, the next one down, you've got brush. So you can draw things like this. You've got boxes, which I love to use because I quite like boxing off areas of interest. Again, you can change the settings of these to different colors, coordinates, visibility, and you can change, all the different colors here like this. And the transparency, you can clone it, bring it to front, back, how thick you want it to be like this. So boxes I use a lot, rectangles and brushes. I sometimes use Eclipse, which is like a circular tool where you can like sort of highlight areas like this. And that's really it, spinners. I don't use anything else in here. Now text I use a lot. Obviously text you can buy, sorry, 2 secs, you can buy, say for example, use this font like this. You can make it bold, you can make it bigger, different fonts, etc. And then what you can do is you can change it all here as well within the settings on the toolbar. Okay, so that's text, and then you've got things like callouts, where you can do a callout like this, and the same thing. And then you've got balloons. It's all very much, arrows, things like this, where you can put arrows like this. And that's really it. That's the only thing I use within this. And then you've got the long and short position. Okay, so say for example, if you wanted to take a long position here, you can then double click this, go to coordinates, say your stop level is 30 pips, and your profit level is well, it's not 900, but it's 90, you have to add the extra 0. Then this is your profit tool to mark out where your stop loss is going to be and where your take profit is going to be. So you can edit all these coordinates here, or you can do it by price, or you can just simply drag it to where you think you're going to take profit and drag it to where you're prepared to lose your money. And this works both ways. So that's the long tool, this is the short tool, and again it works the same way. So stop level is say 30 pips, maybe profit is 90, and then you can drag it over like this. So that's your long and short tool. Other than that, I don't really use anything here. Now, what you can do with this, also, let me just remove everything and go down to a smaller time frame. What you can also do with this is you've got a ghost feed. So you can do something like this where you can say, well, this is what I think price is going to do. Okay? Something like that. So you can do like a ghost feed of your projection, and then you could actually publish this maybe on your TradingView or in your Telegram or whatever like that. So that's quite cool. You can do what you think is going to happen with price. And another thing you can do on here as well is you can do I'm trying to think what projection is. I don't think that's that relevant. Nope. You can do a bars pattern. where you can basically copy this and then duplicate it. So what you could do is you could copy it and then duplicate it and then say, like turn it round and say that this is what you think is going to happen. This works quite well with patterns. You can actually duplicate the pattern and actually remark it out onto the chart. So that's quite a cool little tool. You can pretty much, I believe, do, for example, this whole area. See? And then it will just duplicate it. And then what you can do is you can turn it round. Like this. And stuff like that. So that's quite cool. In here you've got your patterns. Now the only patterns I really use on this is, like, for example, head and shoulders pattern to mark it out. But I actually find this makes things quite messy, so I normally just do it with trend lines and arrows. This is quite cool for that. I don't really use this very often. And then you've got your zoom in tool. You've got your marker here to show how many pips have been dropped. This is here. So you can just drag it from this point to this point. And then you've got your magnet. So for example, if you've got your magnet on and then you use your horizontal ray, it will snap it towards the closest part of the candles. Okay, so you can have it either weak or strong. So you can see that it puts it towards, if I put this line here, look, it finds the nearest point. Okay, so that's quite cool. I don't really use it very often. This is to lock the tools, unlock the tools, throw it in the bin, favorites and things like that. So that's pretty much the charts and how to use the tools. I'm hoping it's quite simple and straightforward. A lot of the stuff that's actually on here I don't tend to use. Other than that, obviously you come back to here, this is your watch list. Headlines for this particular pair that we're on. Obviously you've got your alerts. In here, there's a data window for this particular pair for today. Open, high, low. It's not something you really need to use very often. In here, again, it's not something I use. You've got the economic calendar here. My ideas I've posted in the past. And then you've got things like chat groups and stuff, which is not something that I tend to get involved in. But you've got different topics and things here that you can sit and read. And that's really it, guys, to be honest. So this is TradingView. This is the only analysis platform you should really be using. There's no others that really exist except for MT4. And then obviously be executing off your phone. So if you've got any questions on anything else you want to add to this video or anything you didn't understand, yeah, give me a shout.